Check, check, check. Hey there, Maury. Good to see you. What's going on, friend? It's been a while.
How are you? Oh, you look good. Look at that, your black glasses, your black hair. You look pretty suave. How are things down there?
It's going well, man. It's going well. It's a challenge for sure. It's a different, I mean, it's a different role. I'm not doing sales right now.
Right.
So I'm doing recruiting and just helping to run the office. And it's a challenge, man. It's like kind of trying to push a snowball up a hill, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying it. The people I work with are great. I seem to get really lucky with the people I work with.
Great.
How's your business now? What's new in your world? Are you still just absolutely crushing it?
Not as much as last year. You know, it's a little different this year, a little bit slower, but I've had a few. I just closed on a listing that I had yesterday, so I'm very happy about that.
Right on.
And actually, I think the fourth quarter is going to be good because I have a few things percolating. Got a new buyer come in, and another one that's getting qualified, and a neighbor called me that she wanted.
Hold on. Sorry. There you go. Little background music.
Yeah.
Did it closing yesterday? Sorry.
Lots of things percolating for the end of the year, so I'm sure it'll be good.
Cool, man. I'm so glad you're part of this little experiment here. This little
Yeah.
this
You know,
little
I
spark.
started reading The Investment, Being a Real Estate Investor, before you were doing this. So yeah. So I'm sort of ahead of where you're at, but that's okay. I've gone back and I'm reading it again, so that's good. Getting some ahas, and want to make my money work for me.
There you go. Hey, David, good to see you again. Sharon, your video's not on, but you're welcome to hang out. Glad you're here. So yeah, good to see you guys. Hopefully some more people will drift in as the hour goes on. So here's, as far as wealth building and all goes, so Maury, I'm not sure, you know, where, how much you've caught on to where we're at and everything. But so far, oh, by the way, you're on the Facebook group too, right? Everybody's on the
Yes.
Facebook group. So in there, typical Facebook, you know, I open it up to the page, getting ready for the class, and then next thing you know, the Facebook vortex sucks me in, and I'm like, you know, oh my God, look, there's, you know, so-and-so had a child, and oh, look, there, you know, all that kind of stuff. In the Facebook page, and by the way, if any of you guys are not part of the Facebook group, just shoot me an email, or here, I'll tell you what, go to this page here. I'll put the link in the chat. If you're not already part of the Facebook group, just go to this link, and then it'll say request to join or whatever, and then just request it and I'll approve it immediately. So, but by the way, is anybody here taking bold with this, you know, part of the Forward Living group, taking bold right now?
Yes.
Oh, right on, Aisha. So I was really proud of us because they were talking yesterday, or I guess on Tuesday, about wealth building, and they were suggesting a bunch of stuff that we are already doing. So I was very, you know, I didn't want to chime in too much and throw everybody off the track, but I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what we're up to, right? Which is, you know, what they recommended in bold to get started with wealth building is figure out what your net worth is, figure out what your monthly spend is, you know, and what your monthly balance, right? What your incomes and outflows are for each month, and do that monthly, right? Which is something that we started doing a couple of weeks ago. I don't know who's caught up to that and who has done it. I know I've done the net worth part. So the calculator to do that is in the Facebook under the files section. It's there. It comes from Ben Kinney's Win, Make, Give, which, by the way, we will be going through that whole process down the road a bit, probably about a few months from now. but so what we want to be doing up to this point, if you're part of this group, is hopefully you guys have calculated your net worth. And we're going to be doing that monthly. And hopefully, being that we are a wealth building group, hopefully that starts to increase month by month. And then also figure out what your income and outflows are, right? So what is your spend? How much what are you taking in, and how much is going out the door? Any ahas? Anybody done this so far? Anybody up to date? And any lessons learned along the way? Experiences? Anybody want to share anything?
Well, last year, did we do this last year? Did we start that book club last year, or was that Millionaire Real Estate Agent?
That was MREA, the agent book.
We
Yeah.
did the agent one, right?
Yeah.
But I did this exercise last year, and I did it during sales planning last year. And then I did it again just recently, in the last day or so. And I'm like, damn, my numbers are exactly the same.
Hey,
So that
at
was
least
a
they haven't
big
gone down.
aha.
Yeah.
They haven't gone down. Well, my spend, I'm looking at my spend monthly and yearly and all of that. Yeah, the numbers are the same. Although my investments have increased, which is good. I have yet to do my net worth because I had to like, oh my God, well, what do I owe on the mortgage and how much on my car? So I've got to sit down and do that. Haven't done the net worth yet. But the big aha for me is like, off the top of my head, I sort of remembered my number, and then I looked and I said, yeah, my monthly spend is exactly the same. My yearly number is the same. So,
Right on.
okay, that was good.
Awesome. Anybody else want to share experiences? We're talking about calculating your net worth and also seeing your monthly income and outflows, right?
I did it, and I'm in a career transition. So I'm going from the corporate world to real estate. So it's going to be an interesting watching it flex in the short term. So I'm not very far from my why. So let me tell you that.
Right on. That's awesome, David. Awesome.
Well,
Anybody
I'm
else?
just going to jump in, David. I don't know you. Hello, I'm Maury. I did the same thing last year. I went from the corporate world to real estate, and I was rookie of the year last year. So hang in there, follow Ed, do everything that Keller Williams tells you to do, and hopefully you'll be rookie of the year.
Thank you.
So Maury, you want to share with everyone what was your year one? How much did you take? How much did you make in year one? What was your volume that you hit last year?
In dollar amount?
Yeah,
What was my
just your real estate volume.
my real estate volume
Was it
was
like 11 million?
14 million
14.
in 10 months.
So Maury did, just so you guys know.
Let that be an inspiration. Those who know me know, like, I hate being boastful. So it's not being boastful. It's just, 30 years.
That is why I'm bringing it up and I'm asking you to share that.
And I'm sharing that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a phenomenal first 10 months. I came in with a piece of business and it just didn't stop.
So there you go. And one thing all right, we're getting a little sidetrack here, but I just want to do it because I think it's worth it. I remember, Maury, in your first few months of real estate, we were doing Ignite, or I forgot what it was. We were talking about the MREA book. And I remember you saying like, oh yeah, it's like a roadmap on how to build your business. I totally remember you saying that.
Did I?
And
Okay.
I was like, man, there's somebody who just, gets it right off the bat. It took me a few, I had to experiment and go like, I got this figured out on my own a little bit and bash my head up against the wall until I realized like, oh wait, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like somebody has written down the formula for how to get there. So, okay. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about building wealth, right? Okay. And the exercises so far that we've done are calculating your net worth and figuring out what your monthly spend is and what your monthly income is. Anybody else lessons learned from having done that? Anybody else share their experience, what they've done? Okay, it's not like a trick question. There's no, don't have to. I will tell you a couple of things from me. I did the net worth and I've been working on my income and expenses. It's been a little more complicated than I thought it was going to be. But I will tell you, I've already identified, I think I'm up to about $350 a month that I was able to just stop spending because it was dumb money. And, you know, Rebecca and I went through it. We're like, do you care about this thing? Do I care about this thing? No. Like, why are we paying this for this? You know, there's like there were some entertainment channels like, you know, Disney Channel and some stuff that we haven't looked at in 6 months. I'm like, well, we can always get it again if we're missing it. So just things like that. I was just like, let's just get rid of it. And if we miss it, we can always put it back. It's not hard. So yeah, $350. That's a nice car payment right there each and every month, just from taking stuff out. So, okay. Anybody else lessons learned? All right, so let's go back here. Because I want to share this while it's still available. Where am I at? I'm on Safari, right? Okay, there we go. Let's watch the last bit of this. All right. Give me 1 second. I had it written down where we stopped. Okay. How's the volume? Can you guys hear okay?
No,
No, you have to turn it up.
Okay, hold on a second. Pause this. Let me do this. Let me try that again. Share screen. I forgot to do the thing, optimize for video clip, share. Turn off my music.
One, we're going to set ourselves up for
How's that?
success at our bank account. Pretty simple. What's step two?
Well, can I add one thing really quick on the investment?
Oh, sure.
Or not investments, but the accounts. One of my pro tips for your accounts is take that investment account and put it in another bank, somewhere else where all of your accounts don't live. Because when you need some money or you want something, make it just a little bit harder on yourself to get to your investment account. We have it in a small local bank that does not have amazing online banking. So like we have to go physically if we're going to withdraw money out of that account. So if you're somebody that's super disciplined, leave it where you are. But if you're not, then maybe throw some life hacks in there to make it just a little bit easier to keep the money that you put in the investment account in the investment account. So.
All right, that's a great hack. That's the ultimate protection if you're afraid you'll start stealing from yourselves. For me, I'll just tell you, we did in the beginning years, we would violate it. We would have to move some money out of our investment account at Christmas time for travel. And we just made an immediate commitment, kind of like on your calendar. If you erase it, your lead gen time, you have to replace it immediately. If we borrowed $1,000 from our future, it would be a race to get it back. And we wouldn't, everything else would be put on hold until we could do that. And it just keeps you honest. Now there's at least a record that you took the money. And if you put it in a bank across town, it gets even harder.
Yeah. Whatever it takes. I mean, whatever it takes to get that account bigger and bigger and bigger to allow you to meet your goals. I mean, be willing to do whatever it takes.
All right. I've given you the least fun job of all. Be accountable to a budget. But I know you're good at this. So
Yeah.
give us the simple version here.
Well, that's no problem. Okay. So the great thing about a budget, you started with where you are. You know your burn rate. Now, this is the point that you get to decide if that's where you want to be or not. So you may say, yes, that's exactly how much I want to spend. Great. Or you may decide, man, I would love to just shave $2,000 off of that, $200 off of that, whatever, so that I could put $200, $2,000 more a month into my investment account. And this is when you decide. Like Jay said, you just hold yourself accountable to whatever your decisions are. So right now you make a non-emotional decision to create a budget for yourself. So, and here's the great thing for somebody that comes from a scarcity mindset, the budget helped me a lot because it gave me permission to spend. So that money had to be spent in restaurants at the end of the month, or it rolled over and I had more to spend the next month. Like, it wasn't going into my investment fund. Like, it was money to be spent for what I said it was. So that's when I started feeling like I could get massages and take care of myself and have a good restaurant meal. Like, I wasn't feeling like I needed to eat at, like, Chick-fil-A when I was eating out, because that was a cheaper way to eat. So for scarcity-minded people, a budget actually gives you permission. For consumption-minded people, it's going to give you some guidelines. And we've had this conversation in Gary's group lately about budgeting, and people are like, I don't want to feel like I make money, and so I want to feel like I can get whatever I want. And that's great. Just make the decision on what that dollar amount is. Like, I don't care if your restaurant budget is $2,000 a month. Just be intentional about it. Go eat the best food you possibly can find, because you've said that's what's important to you ahead of time. And then when you're in that.
By the way, clearly she doesn't live in LA. She's like, I don't care if your restaurant budget is $2,000 a month. There's people like we all know that have like 10,000 restaurant budgets a month. Anyway.
Abundance, mindset, man, the budget is just clarity. It is just the path that you're looking for to get to that freedom number. So you are telling your money ahead of time what you're going to do with it, and then you're sticking with it. So what have I missed, Jay?
No, I just love it. And I think that if you can be a little tougher in the first few years of the journey, it accelerates everything. Wendy and I played a game could we live on like 60 or 70% of our income and save and invest the rest? And early on, we tried to make it a game. And we struggled. Like, we had to use ATM cards for a while because we weren't completely in sync on who was spending what on the Visa, and that would get us in and out of sync. And I'll be honest with you, if you're an employee like I was, we had to have side hustles. But if you're in real estate, your side hustle is selling more real estate. We have an amazing advantage, and you can build your income, but this is where you draw the line. If you can't learn to live within your budget, it doesn't matter how much income you make. So when Tiffany says this is where you really decide, it is. Can you choose to live within a preset lifestyle? Because that's how you will set money aside to invest in your future so you don't have to work in the future.
Yeah. And one thing that Jay, you and I talked about early is, like Jay was talking about with the compound interest, the faster you get that money invested, the better it is in the long run. So I love that you said work hard at the beginning. So look at your big line item budget. If you're going to get serious about this, what can you do to really affect not your coffee budget, but your rent and the big things, your car expenses and all of that? One of the agents on our team, Hannah, she's awesome. And she got really serious about this. And she is married with a kid who brought in a roommate. Because she was like, I can immediately, it's basically creating passive income immediately for herself. And is she going to do that forever? No. She's got a 2-year timeline. They're buying a new house and she's going to turn the other one into a rental property. But she and her partner were committed enough to their goal to say, I'm going to do something big to affect that bottom line quickly. So
they understood what their why was, right? They'd figured out what financial freedom in order to do that. And I'll just say that I learned that hack from a book that will be on our book list called Set for Life. And basically it just tells you, instead of starving yourself in the area where you probably spend the least, which is your social budget, your eating out, your coffee, you don't have to skip coffee at Starbucks. But if you can shave expense off of your big expenses, which is usually mortgages, cars, things like that.
Fee budget, but your rent and the big things, your car expenses and all of that. One of the agents on our team, Hannah, she's awesome. And she got really serious about this. And she is married with a kid who brought in a roommate. Because she was like, I can immediately, it's basically creating passive income immediately for herself. And is she going to do that forever? No. She's got a 2-year timeline. They're buying a new house and she's going to turn the other one into a rental property. But she and her partner were committed enough to their goal to say, I'm going to do something big to affect that bottom line quickly. So
they understood what their why was, right? They'd figured out what financial freedom in order to do that. And I'll just say that I learned that hack from a book that will be on our book list called Set for Life. And basically it just tells you, instead of starving yourself in the area where you probably spend the least, which is your social budget, your eating out, your coffee, you don't have to skip coffee at Starbucks. But if you can shave expense off of your big expenses, which is usually mortgages, cars, things like that, that is where the savings add up really quickly. It's just kind of flipping your focus. So you don't have to be miserable and saving. You can actually be having a good life and saving.
I love that. Okay,
All right,
so let's
we've
get
got to
started.
get after it. Let's talk about the 2 starting points. People could look up, they've got a net worth, and they're actually upside down. They're in debt, or you know what? We at least have a small positive number. We're ready to build wealth. What are some of your rules? I've got some of mine. If people start off in debt, like, should they just pay down the debt first, or do they try to split their money between investing and pay down?
Well, I think it comes down to what kind of debt you really need to look at. Now, I am not a debt makes me uncomfortable, and that's something you may decide too. Like, hey, I want to go all in on the debt because that makes me uncomfortable to have it. Then go after it. But you can look at, all right, what are my interest rates? Because when you pay that off, you're guaranteeing yourself a return of that percentage. So, like consumer debt, I mean, that's 28% that you can make by paying that off immediately. But then you've got other things like your mortgage, or you might have some student loan debts that have a lower interest rate. If it's under, my rule is if it's under 7%, I'll split my money between the debt and the investment. And if I have anything over 7% in debt, 100% of my money in that investment fund is pay off the debt fund.
Do you guys hear that rule of thumb? That's pretty good, right? So if it's under 7%, split it between the debt and the investing. And if it's over that, then just pay off the debt. Pretty cool.
That's a good rule. I've heard that too. When you think about it, if you're trying to grow your wealth, and we've talked about wealthy money lives at about 13% and higher, that's where you start to double fast. If you've invested something, you'd have to get 20% if you're paying off 7% debt for your total net worth, right? You're just playing the game. The numbers, you have to get really high rates of return on your investments to outweigh that kind of anchor that you have. And the higher it is, the more likely it is you're better off just paying it down. The one caveat I'll say there is, if you've got a lot of like school debt, you're going to be chipping away at it. And so it's not like you can wait 10 years to pay that off and then start your journey. Chances are it's below 7%, and so you can be paying it down while investing, but don't get discouraged. And is it the Total Money Makeover that you added to the book list? That's a great place for people who are looking at ways to pay down their debt as they move forward, right? Good. That's on our book list. All right, we've got a couple of more things to cover before we wrap this up in our time. Now, for building wealth, we want to give you a few adages here. Time is your friend, right? I know I would love to hit all these goals in 5 years, but realistically, if you give yourself 10 or even 15, you've got a really good shot, no matter where you are, of achieving those goals. You have an advantage. Everybody here that's invited to this event is a real estate professional. Our friend Haro Setian said this to me. He goes, in any other industry, what we know would be considered illegal insider trading. We know the value of real estate. We understand how it's transacted. We get to be the first people to see it. We have so many advantages, and chances are someone in your office or your region is already a millionaire investor and might take you under their wing. So please, when you're looking at your plan, I sincerely hope it involves investment real estate, because we have all of the advantages, and it is a wonderfully democratic way to make your wealth grow. And I guess save money for a down payment and practice. When I first started, I downloaded a pro forma to analyze properties from the web. You can get a CCIM one if you Google for it. I love those to see what your NOI would be. That'll make sense when you do it. But go.
As soon as this is done, we're going to look at the pro forma sheet that corresponds to the MREI book.
Practice like 20 or 30 times. I think I did 100. And I was always looking at houses in a certain part of town that we thought we wanted to invest in. People told us we'd never find an investment there, but I just did the numbers. And one day something showed up and I was like, wow, that's a deal. But I only knew that because I had been calling and finding out what things rented for. I had been exploring what it would cost to fix up a place once you bought it and how much it actually would cost to buy it and what the mortgage payment. But again, like that IRS calculator to play with, the more you practice, the faster you will be confident in your decision making. Anything that you would add on that journey, because the point of this was to give them a freedom number. Now they're having to make a plan to go aim for it, and this is that part.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing that I would add is you're not wasting any time saving for your investment as long as you are investing in your knowledge along the way. So while you're getting that down payment, do the 100 performas, like Jay said, or start looking at offers or make guesses at what things are going to sell for and learn all the information, because there's no wasted time as long as you're saving your money to invest and investing in your knowledge at the same time. So.
There you go. We'll go back to Gary. The advice he's given me, and I know he's given you, you'd rather pass on a good one than buy a bad one. And the way to avoid that is to practice. He started his investor journey with a group. Every time they met once a week, everybody would bring a property they'd analyzed and walk people through it. And so they got to learn not just from his analysis, but everybody else in the room would make.
By the way, did you hear that right there? So when Gary started, they had a group and everyone would analyze one property every week and bring it in and they would talk about it. We are going to be doing that. Maybe not right now and maybe not this month, but we're going to be doing that sooner than later.
Each other smarter. So that practice will help you make that first.
From all around LA, as well as around California and around the country. Like anything is game. You can calculate we'll talk about that later.
One, really confident. All right, so the final step on this, we've gotten our perspective, we've gotten real. Hopefully we've done all the framework for people to get a plan together. Like for mine, it was buy 10 properties over 10 years. I don't know what yours was. Whatever your plan is, the first time you write it down, you'll look back 10 years from now and go, I was so naive.
Yeah, you'll laugh.
Okay.
You will laugh when you look at it.
You will laugh, but that will be the starting point for everyone. So now we have 2 steps. Get accountable and learn. Why don't you take one of those? Why don't you take the get accountability and I'll add to it and then we'll wrap this thing up.
Great. So, we got our net worths. Now, is that the last time we're going to look at it? Absolutely not. Like, you're going to get used to visiting your net worth often. We say, like, visit your net worth, not your money. Like, touch your net worth and look at that every month and see what changes happen for yourself. Don't go have to touch your money and visit your net worth, not your actual dollars. Then do it with somebody else. Find a partner who will be an accountability partner. If you're married, you've got one right there that lives in your home. If you're not, find somebody else on this journey. Like, look right now at who's on this call, on this, class with us. Find somebody who wants to be a part of this and will hold you accountable. And guys, it gets really exciting. Like when your $1,000 becomes $1,100 and becomes $1,200 and then jumps to $1,400, you just get so excited and more motivated to do that. So tracking it. And then the third thing that I say about being accountable is normalize talking about money. Like, it is not a taboo subject. It is not something that is bad or good. And so the more conversations that you have about money, the more comfortable you get, the more you look at your net worth, the more accountable you are to that, which then leads us right into learning, Jay.
I love it. And I just want to emphasize the normalize. Like, again, I make fun of myself as a French English major. I was very uncomfortable. And the more you talk about it, the smarter you get. And just breaking through that barrier, so many people fight about money, but they don't talk about money. So how do we change that from a fight and an argument about you did what at Target or you did what on Amazon.com, right? To, hey, I'm thinking about this and can we start getting ahead of those conversations? But if you just follow that first step of visiting your budget and your net worth on a monthly basis, we do the net worth weekly now, and I know Gary does. It might accelerate, and there were times where we didn't look at it for a quarter because we got distracted. But if you build the habit of understanding that number, nothing will make you smarter on this journey than just that one thing. So I hope if nothing else, you'll do that. It'll make you smarter, and I promise what you focus on, as we say, expands, your net worth will grow just from that one habit. So learning, set some learning goals. If you feel really vulnerable right now, set a goal, have your coach hold you accountable. You're gonna read 1 book a quarter, right? That's about 10 pages a day, folks. It's not that much. And you might be surprised. We're gonna give you a book list of our favorite books. And they're books that actually were surprisingly well-written and entertaining and enlightening. Like, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall asleep while I read this. It wasn't that bad. So we'll give you a starting place, but start educating yourself. And when you are educated, you'll feel more confident and you'll be more fearless when you go to take action. Join or start a wealth club, right? If you don't have a community, find one, build one. We used to do millionaire meals. We loved to cook dinner for people, and we would invite people over once a month just to talk about money. What books have you read? What do you know? That became at different times millionaire margaritas and millionaire mochas, right? But you can find a community, and we had an investor club right here in the office, and we held each other accountable just by talking about it regularly. If you show up to share nakedly what your net worth is and what you're doing to change it, you will take action that you wouldn't take otherwise. And then create a goal and go out and do those pro formas. We mentioned it earlier. Go practice. I truly believe that real estate will be an essential component in your success if you're here with us at MegaCamp, because you are related or you work for a real estate professional, which means you have an unfair advantage. And it is a fantastic way to begin this journey and grow your wealth. So the final question, and I'm going to hand this to you because we're getting close on time. You've done this as good as anyone I've ever witnessed, Tiffany. How can we, right? If we have a financial freedom number, if we just keep working when we get there, it doesn't do us any good. How can we separate our net worth from our self-worth? How do we escape our working identity and lean into that mission? What advice can you give us? Because I believe you've been a great example of this.
Well, thank you. I feel like I'm on the journey of that for sure. But when we're tying our value as a person to what we're producing or our net worth number or whatever that is, our job, like our success as a real estate agent, we will never be truly free. And, my family made a choice to go on a pretty crazy trip a couple years ago before COVID. And we had to, Joshua and me both had to say, okay, we have to be okay with the business failing. We're financially fine, but emotionally, are we okay if the business is not there when we get back? And that's what's great about the financial freedom is it allowed us to say that because we were not needing the money from the business. But could we remove our identity? And so as we are all striving to be just like the best real estate agent or, getting success in business, turn inward as well to say, like, what do I want to be? What was I created for? What am I good at? What is my value as a person? Because your net worth is going to free you up to be that. But if you don't know what that is, you'll never be truly free. So it's a journey and I do not think I am anywhere near the destination of it, but slowly I've been able to peel off things that was me striving after something besides being the best Tiffany that I was created to be. So.
I love that. And I mean, frankly, if people, they don't follow you on social, they should, but like you're learning to play violin right along your kids. You've been like exploring things like stand up. And I just love that you're exploring all the places you could be besides an amazing businesswoman in real estate. And that's great. But the thing I would just say, a lot of us, this idea that we love our work is a way to hide from the fact that we haven't figured out who we are outside of work. And that is a great answer. You don't have to know it today. I'm still figuring it out. And you just said you are too, even though I think you're one of my role models. It is something that we'd all be best served because ultimately, Gary's definition, it's the unearned income to finance your life mission. I don't think any of us' life mission is to work in our jobs. That might be how we fund our mission. So let's get back in touch with that, who we want to be and the best versions of ourselves. Tiffany, thank you for sharing today.
Yeah, Jay, it's always good to be on with you.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us. We hope you'll leave, complete the evaluation so you can let us know what we did well, what we can do better in the future, and make sure you check out the...
All right, we'll cut that off there. So any comments or ahas other than the fact that David loves his shirt, decide your habits, decide your future. I'm with you on that. Any ahas? Come on, guys. This is an interactive bunch. As I've stated,
I thought it was really interesting. I took a lot of notes, actually. I like figure out who you are outside of work and that people hide behind work. Oh, I'm a workaholic. I never take a day off. Isn't that great? No, that's not so great. Because what happens once you get that wealth? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
I thought the accountability partner was great. I like, set a learning goal for yourself. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
We probably should have some get-togethers sometime when it's post-pandemic world and next century, maybe, I don't know when.
Hey, we can meet outdoors somewhere for, you know, some outdoor place and have some cocktails or whatever, hors d'oeuvres on some patio. Let's chew on that for a little bit, because I'd love to kind of all get together as a, maybe once a month we do this group in person. I don't know. Well,
That would be
that's a
great.
good idea. You know, let's talk about that. That'd be cool. You know, and I'm glad that a bunch of you guys keep joining every week, you know, because I want to find some accountability partners. This isn't I mean, great, I have a lot to learn, but my chief failing is not having enough knowledge. It's just not having enough discipline and enough accountability. Like, you know, I've read the MREI years and years ago, you know, so I don't have any excuses. I know what to do. I haven't had good habits in a while. So that's, you know, that's what I look to this group to. And that's part of why I decided to put this together, so that it would help, you know, help me stick to the state of the road. Right.
I think it's easy for it to be exciting when it is exciting, but then when it's that take out the garbage moment where it's not exciting and it starts to feel like a grind, and then the doubts start coming, that's when it's good to have other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh, wait, hold on. I got something else to show you. So this is just, it's so nothing, and yet it's such a big deal to me. This past weekend, my kid was playing baseball. We were out in the desert. Freaking Chino Hills is like 110 degrees. And we were there for like 6 hours for this baseball tournament. And when we got home, I was like, God damn it, I'm buying everything I can to stay cool. And I bought this like super awesome igloo, you know, a cooler that's like, you know, one of those expensive, you can spend a lot of money these days on an ice chest kind of thing. And then it arrived and I was like, that's stupid. Like my wife was like, don't we have one of those? And I was like, yes, but sweetheart, ours is not that good. Ours, the ice melts after only like 20 hours, you know? And what the hell? Like, when was the last time I was anywhere for more than 20 hours anyway? Like, it was just such an impulse buy. And so like, I literally put it back in the box. I'm actually sending it back. And I know that doesn't sound like anything, but I swear I would not have done it had it not been for this group and for us not having heard that all together. Cause I was like, you know what, if I'm really going to start putting money, if we're going to start investing, like this is the kind of things that we need to do to be putting money away. I mean, I've had houses before and I don't right now. And part of that's just because I lack the discipline to put the money away to make it all happen. Anybody else want to chip in?
Yeah, I got a comment to make. I think the key is to be able to distinguish between wants and needs. Every time that I am doing something, I'm purchasing something, I question this. Is this something that I need or something that I want? That is the key. So, because we all get excited about things, having the next best thing and next, you know, and God knows that the social media and advertisements don't even help us. They just keep showing us brand new stuff. I remember years ago, I used to buy every new phone that came in. This one is about 3.5 years old because I'm not doing that anymore. My computers are more than 8 years old. I'm not doing, as long as they're working, they're fine. So what I'm trying to say is that basically being present, being really able to distinguish between what is it, I mean, what's important? Is it your immediate satisfaction now or your future?
Yeah.
Remember, there were, in the movies that you were selling your soul to the devil. Now you're selling your future to all this stuff, new stuff that comes in. This is my take on this, that I really pay attention to what I spend money on. Is it a want or is it a need?
Very cool, David. That's a great insight. I like
It's
that.
actually interesting. I don't know if my wife knows the difference between wants or needs. She has the impulse buying like Ed. So
Yeah, I mean, I will cop on myself. Like I lack self-discipline in that regard. And and when I think about it, I think rather than having the latest cooler, the latest iPhone, that having, starting to accumulate real estate rental properties again, that's way more exciting to me. And that's what I want my next bunch of years to look like, is starting to get back into that world and accumulating properties and building net worth. Like what Dave was saying, I've caught myself too, of just being like, what do I really need anymore? Like, I don't need any of the things that I used to think I needed. Yeah, great stuff. Anybody else want to chime in or anything?
Well, I think you're all making the right, sort of comments. And my only addition is that it's the same. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice today if you know that it cuts 10 years off you having to work hard? Like, that's my perspective. What can you, and I also think we have to have some fun. That goes back to the commentary they were making on the video. Like, you do have to have some fun, and you never know what tomorrow brings. Like, there has to be something also now that drives you. But at the same token, there's a lot of things that we don't need. And if we could just focus on your why and what is that going to get you that's better than whatever thing you might obtain now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's awesome, Camille. And by the way, great to see you today at the
Yeah,
caravan.
good to see you. I hardly recognize you. I'm like, I think that's Ed.
Yeah, right
you had
on.
the mask on and all that jazz. So good to see you.
Right on.
Yeah, I'll volunteer my backyard if we want to do this at some point down the future, is getting together and just bouncing stuff off each other.
I love it. I love it. In the near future, I love what he was saying. That's actually a vision I had of, like, all of us, whoever wants to, once a week when we meet up, everybody bring a property and we'll kind of go through the analysis of it together. So we all kind of share our homework and have a mind share of properties. And we could be, different parts of LA, we could be across the country, like everything's fair game. Just find a property and analyze it. So I want to get to that point, that part of our group here in the next few weeks as quickly as possible. So let's kind of move on here. So here's one thing I want to share with you guys. We're not going to go into this in too much depth today, because this is fun for another day when we get to that point. This is a website called Keller Inc. INK, Keller INK, right? Like that up in the corner. This is the publishing arm of Gary Keller and Jay Papasan that brought you this lovely book here, the MREI. And if you go here, they have resources, and you go here under Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And there is there are some great worksheets here for buy and sell and buy and hold. And I use these all the time. They're phenomenal. By the way, they're great for work when you have investor clients. Most realtors don't do that. They're just like, hey, what do you think? Here's how much it'll go for. And that's as much as they get involved. I have found that if you find investors, especially investors who are new, who don't really know what they're doing, and you help them figure out, now you got to be a little careful with liability, but if you're careful about it, you can help them calculate how much the property is going to appreciate, and how it's going to perform it as an investment over time. And when you do that, oh my God, they just think you're a genius, and all you're doing is just plugging numbers into a spreadsheet. And yeah, so they really, the clients I've worked with when I've done that for just are super appreciative of. So we'll leave that there. Okay, the next part of the book that we were going to read today. Anybody read this? The Myth Understandings.
Yes.
Right on, David. Right? Anybody else? Maury read. Maury's already read it. Maury's like read a good chip into the book, right? So here's what I'll do. So we've only got like 9 minutes left. I have to cut out I'm gonna have to be cutting out early every week by like 5 minutes, because I've got a coaching call with my coach at 4 o'clock. But here's what we'll do is, does anybody want to talk anything? You got your book available there? Anybody want to talk about it?
I like the ATM concept at the end of chapter, was it 3? Time, money, or knowledge. What division of of fractional do you hold on those three things? And what do you have to do to move forward?
Yeah, this one, right? This is what we're talking about. So this is on page 57 of my copy of MREI. See that right there?
59, I think of mine. Oh, 57, sorry.
And I love what he was saying. Like, if you don't have a lot of money, but you have a lot of ability and you have a lot of time, you can still get a lot done. If you have a lot of money and you're smart, but you don't have a lot of time, you can make it work. So there's different ways of making the equation work. Those all work together: money, time, and ability. I thought that was really cool. Any other ahas? I was gonna play the recording of Think Like a CEO season 5, where Gary and Jay talk about these 8 myth understandings. But I think it's probably better if we just kind of go through these, and let's do this. Let's go through them one by one and everybody give their little take on it, right? So the first myth was, I don't need to be an investor. My job will take care of my financial wealth. Anybody want to say anything about that? I think we're all pretty clear on that. None of us really wants to be selling homes when we're 70 years old, right? Or maybe you do, but the days of your job taking care of you and giving you a pension and stuff like that, that just doesn't occur these days, right? Yeah, your job is not your financial wealth. Okay, myth number 2, I don't need or want to be financially wealthy. I'm happy with what I have. Anybody want to read the truth there, page 45, and anybody else has some take on it?
I think people only say that when they don't have money.
Yeah.
And when they have a limiting belief, I think.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
better put.
There's an insecurity here tied to money.
It's one thing to say like, hey, I don't need to spend that much money in the next year because I just don't need to. I'm happy with what I've got. I can totally respect that, and that's great. It's another thing to say like, I have $500 of net worth and I have no savings whatsoever, and I'll be fine. Like, man, it's not, there's a lot of things that can come your way that you don't foresee right now that can just wreak havoc on you. And not that you won't survive it, but do you want to have to borrow from people? Do you want to have to rack up credit card debt to survive it? Wouldn't you rather just, one of the best things about having some money saved away is like a problem happens and you write a check and you take care of it responsibly. It's just such a great feeling. There was a time when, we didn't have much money saved up, and last year in the middle of COVID, our washing machine took a dump, and, we called up some company, they came, installed a new washer, we wrote a check, bam, done, gone, and that's what having, savings and that kind of thing can do for you. Anybody else want to add to that?
Well, I would say also for those who are offended by things, I'm sure there are people who don't like things, and it isn't really about things, but how can you help others if you can't help yourself? So that's, I think, a mindset shift. It's not about accumulating things. It's what legacy are you able to leave behind, and how can you help others? I mean, you can't make a difference in someone's life who's, on the corner of a street or in an orphanage or, name it, or anything, if you can't first take care of yourself. So, and that comes with great wealth, your ability to do something good with it.
That's such a great insight, Camille. I love that. And Miguel, it was great to have you while you're here. And we'll see you next week, Ben. That's great.
It reminds me, Ed, of the expression, good is the enemy of great. It's good enough. My salary is good enough. And it's interesting, just a very quick story. I reconnected with someone I knew when I was in high school, many years ago, obviously. And he's one of those guys. It's just good enough. and he was telling me how between his Social Security and this little bit of pension that he has, he's going to be okay. He's all right. He's good. He's good. And when he's talking to me about it, I thought, he's the same guy that I knew 40 years ago. He hasn't changed. It's the same mindset. You know, it's just good enough. I'll get by. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I know at this stage of life, you know, with 3 kids, 3 grown kids and grandkids, it was sad. You know, I don't think anybody's ever taken him and shaken him and said, it's okay to be great.
Yeah. 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 I love that. I love that. That's great. Myth number 3, this is one that breaks my heart because I know people like this, and I've had a little bits of this at points in my life. It doesn't matter if I want or need it. I just can't do it. And the truth is, you can't predict what you can or can't do until you try. And, you know, for anybody, you know, if you're struggling with finance or whatever, just come to this group. We're not gonna, no one's gonna make you stand up on a stage with a microphone and tell anybody what your net worth is. I promise that's never going to happen in this group. So just come, man, just hang out. I promise you, if you come to this group every week, you'll get there. I promise you. It's not as hard as you think. No one's gonna ask you to do anything you can't do. You know, that's what I love about this book, is it takes what can be really complicated and overwhelming. And I don't know where it is. I think it's in the Think Like a CEO season 5 that Gary and Jay were talking about it. And they were saying, you know, I think financial people love to make all this stuff sound way the hell more complicated than it actually is. Because if people knew what it really was, it's actually quite tangible, and then maybe they wouldn't need them quite so much. You know, and us, by the way, I'm not saying don't use a financial advisor. I'm a big fan, but you know, we can do these things. And I love in the video that we just saw with Jay and I forgot her name. They were saying real estate, we have such an unfair advantage. It's like I love what he was saying. It's like insider trading. That struck a chord with me, because we get access to properties before it ever hits the market. I mean, that is exactly like insider trading. That's like knowing, you know, a stock, something inside about a stock before it makes its IPO or something like that, right? Yeah, brilliant stuff. Anybody else on that one? Because that's such a main one of all of these. I just can't do it, right? Hate that. Okay, the next 5 we'll go through quickly. These are the ones that all about how you look at investing. Number 1, investing is complicated. We know that's not true. Investing is only as complicated as you make it. And we're gonna learn how to do that, right? Number 2, the best investments require knowledge most people don't have. The truth is, your best investments will always be in areas you can or already do understand. And all of us on this call, we already know real estate, and real estate is such a great way to invest. So yeah. 3 is investing is risky. I'll lose my money. The truth is that by investing, by definition, is not risky. This was kind of an eye opener for me. I know I'd read this book before, but this one kind of blew past me. And it wasn't until I was listening to the podcast that they were saying that no, actually, what is risky is what do they call it? Speculation. That's when you're buying something based on you expect it to go up in value. When we talk about smart real estate investing, you make your money on the way in, where you already know, not that it couldn't go down in value, but you're already making your money. You already know you can, you know, even if at some point along the way, I remember Gary talking about when the Great Recession happened in 2008, he had a bunch of investment properties and he was concerned because they all just got, you know, beat up pretty good and he was underwater. But then he realized, what do I care? I can just ride this out. I'm fine. Because he had done his homework and he knew that he didn't need to sell. So if you don't need to sell, what do you care? You just sit on it and just keep it going and wait till it is a good time to sell. Anybody else?
Happened to me as well.
Good stuff. Myth number 4, successful investors are able to time the market. Oh, we could talk about this for an hour. The truth is that in successful investing, the timing finds you. you don't need to buy when the market is low. You don't need to sell when the market is high. Sure, you might want to lean in that direction a little bit, but there's always deals to be found to purchase, even in the hottest markets. And there's always deals to be found to sell, even when when the market is down. I mean, yeah. It reminds me, there's a famous real estate investor in South Florida. And I don't know, I heard this years ago before I was ever in real estate, and somebody was asking him what his secret was. And he said, it's a guy, I remember now, it's this guy in Miami, they call him El Loco, which means like the crazy dude. That's his nickname, El Loco. And they asked El Loco, like, hey, what is your secret to investing? He said, he probably said it in a very thick Cuban accent, which I would break out right now. But anyways, he would say, I never tried to buy when the market was high, and I never tried to buy when the market was low, and I never tried to sell when the market was high. Basically saying, like, I just never really tried to time the market. I just found good investments, and I love that. Okay. Myth number 5, all the good investments are taken. Truth is, every market in every time has its share of good investments. Bam. And then the last part, they talk a little bit in that chapter about the compounding your success, about how time has a factor on all this. We'll skip that right now. So now we're at page 75, Think Like a Million. And let's see, how far can we get for next week? Let's go to, where's the end of this chapter? Let's see, where's this at? Well, that's getting kind of long. Let's not go that far. Maybe if we can get to page 97, point number 5, think real estate. A little sticky note there for me. And there you go. Any last ahas, comments, concerns? Are you guys digging this so far?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I really am enjoying this group. And I did just get the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. I did end the myth understandings chapter, but that's, yeah. But I will catch up to page 96, and I'm excited.
Fantastic. Sharon, I'm so glad you're with us on this journey, and yeah, good stuff, everybody. Anybody else, last lessons learned, ahas, before we wrap it up? All right, then hopefully by the time I see you next week, your net worth will have increased just a little bit or a whole lot. All right, everybody. So glad you guys all made it. We'll see you next week, and yeah, see you soon.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.